Okay, since so many of y'all have asked, I'm going to show you how I add knit ribbing to a crochet piece. I like to use a repair needle to pick up my stitches. Okay, it's a crochet hook on one end and a knitting needle on the other. You can use a regular crochet hook to pick up the stitches and then put them on your knitting needles, or you could just use the knitting needles to pick up stitches. I hate doing that, so I'm using a repair needle. I also like to put one of these knitting needle caps on the pointy end of my repair needle to help me from losing stitches when I'm picking them up with the crochet hook end, and also because then the repair needle doesn't stab my hand. I'm set up for this by anchoring one end of my circular knitting needles in something so it doesn't escape. I'm using a box of buttons. You do want to start with the right side of your finished product facing you, because it's going to leave a little string of V's like this. And maybe, I don't know, if you want that as something decorative, go for it. But this is what the inside of mine looks like. And this is the outside where it's really just blends super nicely. So I'm starting with the outside facing me. And I'm doing a 2x2 ribbing. This is a sleeve and it's a really big sleeve and I want it to be a lot smaller. So I'm gonna pick up one stitch per double crochet and one stitch per chain. And I'm just going to pick them up kind of loosely. This is the part where something happened to my mic, so you get voiceover cat now. Anyway, I wanted to make sure that my stitches are facing the correct direction. So when they're on your knitting needle and your stitches are in the correct orientation, the post towards the front of the needle is to the right of the post that is on the back of the needle. So we want all of our stitches to be facing this way. So when you transfer from your repair needle or your crochet hook to your knitting needle, you want to make sure that you end up with this orientation of stitches. So from, because I'm working in the round, when I do this transfer, I'm going through the back loop purlwise. So the back post of my stitches on the repair needle, I'm going through that purlwise when I transfer the stitches, and that is working correctly because I'm in the round. I would go through the front post knitwise when I was working back and forth. And honestly, you know what? If you mess it up, it's fine. It might just mean that your first row of stitches is like a little bit twisted, so don't sweat it too much, but this is what has been working for me. Now, once you've moved all of your stitches over, before you do more, make sure that you scooch your needle up if you're using a repair needle or a crochet hook so that you don't lose those stitches. Now, what I just did ended up getting frogged because I forgot to do the math before I started, and that was silly. So I used the ribbing that I did on the hem, where I cast on just the way that you saw, with one stitch per double crochet and one stitch per chain. And the problem is on the sleeve, that's not going to work because I needed to decrease way more significantly. So I used the gauge from the hem to actually do some math and figured out that I needed to cast on one stitch per double crochet, skipping each of those chains entirely, and then do a very dramatic decrease on the first go around, where instead of knit 2 purl 2, I'm knitting 2 together, purl 2 together, purl 2 together, with the exception of the first and last stitch, and then I end up with 32 stitches, which is divisible by 4. If you are using circular needles like I was, you do need to set up for magic loop. I prefer DPNs, but I don't have any in this size, so circulars it is. And then you can join in the round once you're all the way cast on, and then off you go. So here's how we look after a couple of rounds in 2x2 ribbing. And here is how it looked after 16 rows and a stretchy bind off. A little bit more of a close-up. So you can see there's a really dramatic decrease that first round, but that's how it turned out.